If you're wondering what it's like to hire a motorhome in Australia, or even just travel to Australia in general for the first time, we're going to tell you what it was like when we hired a motorhome with Star RV. Hi everybody, my name's Annie.
And I'm Steve.
And these are our two pooches, Taco, say hi Tax.
And Tamale, so hello Tamale.
And we are the founders of Londoner in Sydney, which is londonersydney.com, which is a travel website we've been running for the last 10 years, which is crazy.
We've recorded this amazing video just for you because we know you've got lots of questions about what to do when you're on the open road and you're in the van and things go a bit sideways, or what do you do if this happens, or what should we do in case of XYZ. So lots of people have been asking us questions, so we thought, why not make a video and cover them all.
So we're going to tell you everything you need to know about hiring a motorhome and Star RV. We're also going to answer questions that we had before we hired the motorhome, which is really random stuff like, what do you do about water? How does the fridge work when you're on the road or you're like parked up at a random car park? Is all your food going to go off? Can you use the shower in the bathroom? Can you use the toilet? All these sort of questions I was totally unsure of before we hired that van.
A couple of things I want to say up front is, first of all, it may seem a bit daunting when you first arrive. Like, you'll meet the crew and they're super amazing at Star RV, super friendly, and they'll run you through everything you need to know. But it's pretty overwhelming. So first and foremost, 110% recommend get your phone out and just record them, walking you through everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that way, if you forget something, you can always refer back to the video and you go, oh, that's right, I remember that now. But, you'll get used to it pretty quickly once you get a few of the key points. It's not a problem. But yeah, don't be worried, because you'll get it pretty quickly.
So if you're not aware, we did hire a van with Star RV, who are basically the sister company of Juicy Vans. If you are based in Australia or New Zealand, you 100% would have seen Juicy Vans. They've been going for a really long time, and their new motorhome company is called Star RV. So we basically did a road trip for 2 months. We're based in Sunshine Coast, and we flew to Perth, and then we basically travelled from Perth down to Esperance, up to Broome, over to Darwin, and then down to Adelaide, which is a really random route, but that's the route that worked for us because we hadn't really done that together before. So we wanted to see something different in Australia. And so we went with Star RV. Now, they do have 2 different vans that you can choose from. They have the Polaris 2 and the Polaris 6. So the Polaris 2 is more like a camper van. It's like a converted like transit van. And the Polaris 6 is a motorhome. So we had the Polaris 6, which was basically for 6 people, and there was only 2 of us, which I'm glad we went with that van, because I don't think we would have lasted in the smaller van.
If you're like a regular, motorhome aficionado, you're probably going, well, why do you need a 6-seater van for 2 people, 6-person van for 2 people? Like, well, if you're not totally used to confined spaces, the 6 is defo worth it, because you're going to find that you're going to have a bit of stuff with you, and kind of, it's helpful to have a bit of extra room when you're walking around. We found the tight spaces can be a little bit tricky if you're not used to that. But yeah, so the 6 is worth it, I think.
Let me just say, when you've got Steve-O and that stuff, like, I'll just let you guys know that we took 80 kilos of stuff with us on this van trip. So
we were going for a couple of months, so
it was a big thing. We took way too much stuff, but we like our own space, and so this was a big testament to us to be in a van for 2 months. And I have to say, like, the difference between Polaris 6 and Polaris 2 is not that much difference, because we actually went to look at the Polaris 2 when we went to Darwin. They've got a branch in Darwin, so we had a quick look at the branch there. As I mentioned, we picked up the van from Perth, and the reason why we did that is because we hadn't seen a lot of WA or NT together, had we? So there are like 9 locations you can pick up in Australia, and there's like 3, I think, in New Zealand as well. You can get really strategic with your planning. I will put a link below on the different itineraries that you can do from all the different branches around Australia as well. One thing I was really unsure about was what was actually going to be included in the van. Like, what were we going to need to buy? Because we were flying to Perth, it's not like we could have just brought loads of stuff from home in terms of like kitchenware and stuff like that. So we were a bit unsure really until we arrived. But what you do get is they actually give you loads. Well, we didn't really need to buy anything, did we? We just bought a new frying pan because you're very particular about frying pans.
You know, the stuff they give you is pretty basic. So if you want something a little bit more, you know, kind of upmarket, I would suggest perhaps bringing your own utensils and maybe a pot or a frying pan. You know, I like the full, you know, like proper, like healthy, you know, ceramic non-stick rather than traditional Teflon stuff because I'm a bit anti-Teflon. And the plastic utensils, yeah, I probably would just bring my own anyway. So I actually prefer the wooden ones, to be honest. So those sort of things, if you're into that sort of stuff, maybe think about that. But yeah, I think generally there's a lot of stuff, glasses and cutlery and plates and everything. It's all there. So you don't
They
have to worry
literally
about
give you everything, even like the bed sheets and stuff as well. Like I wasn't sure about what sort of bed linen we were going to get because our van was enough for like 6 people. So there's 3 beds in our van. We had like bed sheets with obviously 3 beds, and we actually gave them back some of the duvets because we were like, we don't need that many. And they give you loads of pillows as well. You also get outdoor tables and chairs. They give you broom. But some of the great stuff that was included in the van was the AC. It was amazing because our car doesn't have AC. So like, oh, it's like a godsend, isn't it?
So our air conditioning's been broken for a little while, but well, we do need to get that repaired. But I just want to say, like, the air conditioning only works when you're at a powered site. So it won't work when you are just, you know, running off the batteries. So it needs to be plugged into the site, or a sort of power source, 240. So that's something to bear in mind. So if you're planning your journey up north, you need to be planning those stops accordingly if you really need the air conditioning. So that depends on the time of year and that sort of thing. So definitely something to think about, especially if you're in hot or really, really cold climates as well.
Yeah, and that is one thing to note as well. Like, because we were traveling through WA and NT, a lot of that is outback. And so we were constantly going between hot and cold temperatures all the time, weren't we? One minute we were like, had our thermals on, next minute we're in shorts and t-shirt and it's 40 degrees. So that was a bit confusing to constantly keep going between temperatures. One thing you do need to know as well is the Starvey vans aren't four-wheel drive. So because we, like, especially going from like Broome to Darwin, we didn't get to do the Gibb River Road, which is like a really famous four-wheel drive road, which was fine because when we got to Kununurra, which is like kind of like the centre of the East Kimberley, we were able to see quite a few amazing places in that area. Like, we did a scenic flight to Bungle Bungles, which was unbelievable. We went to Lake Argyle, to the tourist park there, which is really beautiful. And we managed to go to Alcestra as well, which is at the very beginning of the Gibb River Road, because the first hour is sealed, so you can actually drive on it and see Emma Gorge, which is supposedly the highlight of that entire road. So we were quite lucky we were able to see it, weren't we?
Okay, so another thing to be aware of is water. Now, there are kind of a few things to be aware of. First of all, there is a main tank. I think it's about 40 litres, maybe more. But that basically covers the dishwashing water, basically for the sink, also the toilet, the little wash basin and the shower. So that's going to be used pretty quickly. So you need to be pretty sparing if you're going to have a shower. It's like, zoot, zoot, you know, that sort of thing. Don't go around there having a big, long shower.
Well, we didn't have a shower at all, though.
We didn't actually use it anyway, so
we didn't. But we did shower, obviously.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we just showered at campsites. I don't know why we didn't. Why didn't we not use the shower?
Oh, well, I suppose because we ended up just like, I don't know, we just preferred the you know.
I don't know.
the
It's
cave
really
showers,
weird.
really.
Sorry, just saying about water though. Like, I didn't even use the sink for like the first 2 weeks. I don't know why. I was like really scared. I was really scared about using water, and so I just used the sink in the campsites, which was so annoying because you had to like line up for ages to like wash your stuff. Whereas like once I realised I can actually use the sink in our kitchen, it was like a game changer.
Yeah. And it is pretty good, and I think, you know, you get pretty used. It's a little it's a small sink. It's not very big, so you kind of, you know, making sure you kind of utilise that pretty well. But yeah, so the water thing, yeah, just gotta be careful with the water. Then you have, of course, everyone's favourite toilet cassette, which is inevitably a guy's job. That is something you won't see a lot of women doing now. If you go to all the caravan sites or most of the campsites, they'll have like a little what's called a dump point, and you can take your toilet sort of cassette, and then you'll sort of there's a little nozzle on it, flips around, and you unscrew it, and then you just pour it out basically. You get these little tablets that you put in there, and that basically makes it not too smelly. Like it's actually quite bearable. What I would suggest everyone does, this is a really, really good trick, and I heard a few people saying, Steve, you're a genius for doing this, is make sure you take some gloves. Because you know what, there's nothing worse than picking up a cassette that's got maybe some questionable things on it, and then you're taking it, walking around with it. So just grab some gloves, some garden gloves, and just take a pair of those with you. You're going to march down to your dump point in confidence then, and kind of strut around a bit with your gloves on.
I tell you what though, it was really nice to be able to because we were driving really long hours on the road in the outback in the middle of nowhere, nowhere. And it was just like a godsend having a toilet in the motorhome, because we could just pull over at any point, have a quick pee-pee, get back on the road, all safe, not having to go out in the bush and be having a look around for snakes and spiders or whatever. So that was really good to be able to have that luxury as well, wasn't it? The other really important thing to note is Star RV gave us some really good pointers about how to save money on fuel. So do you want to explain what that was, Steve?
So one of the really important things I think, and I was super grateful for, was when the staff told us about how to drive economically so we could save on the fuel. Now, if you drive the motorhome at about 90 to 95 k's an hour is kind of the target zone for where you want to be. Now, the actual motorhome itself is an auto, so you don't have to worry about changing gears or anything. It drives a lot like a car. There's no kind of worries about thinking, oh, can I drive a bigger motorhome? Because it honestly totally drives like a car. It's super easy to drive, power steering, the whole 9 yards. So yeah, if you want to aim for about 90 to 95, that's a pretty good range. There's a little economy thing on there, and you can I play a little game most of the time trying to get it right at the little economy bars right where they need to be. So, and if you do that, you'll find you can get probably 500 to 600 k's out of the tank, depending on what sort of hills you're going up and down. So if you're going up and down a lot of hills, you're going to see that be a lot less. But diesel prices, we were seeing, I think, probably sort of $2, $2.50, $3. It's sort of a bit of a range, and obviously the further you get away from bigger cities, the more expensive it gets. The most expensive place we found was between Alice Springs and Uluru, and that was almost $3. So some of them were pretty expensive. It is diesel. There's no AdBlue needed for it. It's just straight up diesel. So, but yeah, it can get expensive, but yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what one of the things that really surprised me actually about this trip was how I think I just automatically thought it was going to be like previous trips we've been on, because Steve and we basically met while backpacking in India, and we have done over the last 13 years, we've done 3 trips where we have literally packed everything up, sold everything, got a one-way ticket, and then just traveled around the world for a year backpacking. And we've done that 3 times. And we've been on multiple trips since. But we thought it was going to be quite similar. We're going to be yeah, we'll be a pro at this. And bear in mind, we've never done motorhome experience before, and we've never actually driven that far before. We drove Steve drove 15,000 kilometers on the entire trip. But the main thing that would really surprised us is the fact that everything took so long, didn't it? So we spent so much time just packing everything up every day, didn't we? Do you remember when we'd have to you'd have to walk around the van, make sure everything, you'd close everything up. I'd have to check throughout the whole van, make sure everything is put away. We'd have to do all the washing up. It kind of felt like an inspection every day.
Just touching on that, another really important point as well is you need to make sure any of the kind of windows or any of the, for instance, the little cap that's on the electricity plug area is down, and there's nothing nothing that's hanging out of the actual airflow around the sides of the van. So you just kind of get used to this kind of visual check, making sure all the windows are closed, because if they're open and you're going at speed, you can imagine we've heard stories that they do come off. So you don't want to be doing that. So you want to make sure they're all closed. The one that's on the top, the little pop top thing, actually is we were told, and we found was fine to have open a little bit. So that was
Actually, those
perfectly fine.
pop-tops are really good for when it
Yeah.
was like really hot. Sucks all the air out. Very, very good.
And it's like a little air conditioning unit. Basically, you have little pop tops in the roof, and then if you open the side windows, the difference in the air pressure and temperature seems to sort of draw the air in from the bottom, a bit like a tent, I guess, and then let it out the top. So it kind of, yeah, just makes the airflow thing really happen, which is a really good point when it's hot. Is pop that top open, let all the hot air out.
Yeah, totally. And the other thing that I always would forget to do is to make sure all the cupboards were all locked. Because the great thing about Star RV vans is you get loads of cupboard space.
Oh, yes.
And I remember the first time we drove off and like, we were like, oh my God, what's that noise? Like big clunking noise. And we were like, what? And like every single cupboard like, just flew open. But they're on sort of like hooks. So they're not going to like fly out. But I had to quickly like get up and like lock everything up because otherwise it's a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah.
So that's one thing to note is it's not like when you're traveling in terms of, you know, you just pack your bag up and then you're off to your next place. When you're in a motorhome or camper van or whatever, like you're constantly having to pack everything away. Make sure everything is packed away before you can even leave and go on your day. And because we were only doing 2 months and we were traveling around such a big distance, we were on the road like all the time, weren't we? So we'd get to a place quite late and then we'd go to bed and then we'd wake up and be like, right, okay, then we're going to like do it all over again. So it was actually quite tiring. So if you are planning a trip around Australia, give yourself extra time what you actually think you'll need, because we thought, oh yeah, 2 months easy, we'll do all this. And then in the end, like we were meant to see South Australia and we literally spent like 2 days there because we'd like run out of time.
Yeah, it does take a lot of time to drive between destinations. So yeah, just do your planning, I think, carefully in that respect, because yeah, it does take longer than what you think, and you're gonna have to take breaks and all the rest of it. So just, you know, be kind of realistic with how far you want to drive and sort of the distances you're going to be doing.
And one of the reasons why we did get a motorhome is you might be thinking, why don't you just buy one? Yes, we did. Well, I definitely considered that for a very long time. There was a coaster van around the corner from where we live. I would see every day on my walk with the dogs, and I'd be like, oh, I just want to live in a coaster. And the reason why we didn't buy a van is because we'd always seen lots of stories about people who'd break down in the middle of nowhere, and then they'd spend like weeks in some like outback town in the middle of nowhere waiting for a part to come to fix their van. Now, we didn't have that time to sit and wait. So we were like, let's just get a van and let's just hire a van instead. Then we don't have to worry about any of those problems.
And a couple of important points to just mention about that is that, you know, you do get roadside assistance with the van hire. So that's definitely a thing you can get.
And another thing to note is that even though we drove 15,000, I keep saying Steve drove 15,000 Ks. We didn't have any problems with our van at all, did we?
No,
not
it was
even
fine,
one.
honestly. Yeah, absolutely.
Not even one.
Didn't miss a beat the whole time, so
we're
pretty lucky.
The only thing we had is a chipped windscreen, which is so easy to get when you're in the outback.
If you've got a long journey, a big tip would be get the windscreen cover, because yeah, there's a good chance you've got a longer journey that your windscreen's probably going to get a chip in it. There is a little chip thing you can get from the hardware store, which will, you know, can fill the chip in and it looks pretty good. So
yeah, you did that, didn't you?
Yeah, we actually ended up doing that, and so that wasn't a problem for us. But we also had the chip, the windscreen protection and tire thing as well. So, but yeah, I think yeah, pretty good. Okay, so another thing that I think is really worth mentioning is that we took a power bank with us. This is really helpful if you want to power your laptops and other things like that, you know, charge cameras, all the rest of it, that you might not be able to do if you're not actually at a powered campsite or somewhere that's powered. So you have to bear in mind that you won't be able to plug in things that consume a lot of energy into that battery. So and I'll talk a bit more about the battery because there's a few things to really go into with that. But we ended up using an EcoFlow battery, which is really useful to power your, you know, things like your MacBooks and things like that, laptops, cameras, all that other stuff, charge a drone, all the things that we wanted to use. So it's super duper helpful. And I think the other thing to perhaps took the cake and is absolutely 100% you need it is Starlink. Now, Starlink is awesome. The reception is really good. We didn't really have too much trouble with it. I think there's only a few like kind of times here and there that didn't really work, and that was only because we were literally, I think, just out of range of the reception for whatever reason. But The positioning's really easy. You literally dial in the app, and it just finds the right, angle to connect with the satellites and whatnot. So it's super useful. You need to buy an actual unit, but you can buy secondhand units, and then you can from there, set up your own account and then link that account to the unit. So definitely worth looking into. Super useful, and we saw lots of other people with Starlinks there, all at in different times.
I just want to say about Starlink as well, in case you don't know, but I kind of assumed that we'd be able to use Starlink all the time, but you can only use it when obviously when you're like stationary. So when you're at a campsite, then you get it out and you can use it.
There is a version that you can actually use while you're mobile, but it's a lot more expensive, and you can hook it up to the van on a more permanent basis. So there is a version you can do that with. Yeah.
So you can use that when you're driving them?
You can.
No way.
No way.
Oh, I wish we got that one now.
It's double or triple the price, I think. So, another really important thing I want to touch on is the power situation. This is a pretty critical thing for managing, when you leave the van, when you pull up, and what to do with it. So, a couple of hints and tips is that the fridge is kind of a critical element of the power situation. So, basically, the fridge consumes a lot of power. Now, when the car drives, the car's engine charges up the battery, and it keeps it charged, and the fridge draws a lot of power from that battery. So basically, when you pull up and you stop and the car engine's idle, it will kind of run off the battery. So you kind of want to come around and not waste all that battery power, but come on and flick on the gas, and because the fridge is powered either by gas or via the battery. So you definitely want to flick it on the gas. If you're leaving it for more than maybe half an hour, that's kind of the point that you start thinking about the flicking the gas on, because obviously the fridge is just, it's just going to not keep totally cool to that point. So anyway, so from there, make sure you flick the gas on for the fridge. And there's a little battery meter. If it gets below kind of 13 volts, then you need to drive it around a bit, charge it back up again, and the battery should provide that sort of that power you need. So, but yeah, as I say, you'll need an external battery if you're going to power things like laptops and things like that, because they're obviously draw a lot more energy, and also the air conditioning as a separate thing as well.
So when our trip came to an end, and we'll do other videos for you about the cost, so you'll know how much we spent on this trip, and we'll do another video on all the things we had no idea about van life until we had done it, really. But some of the things that actually really surprised me about being in a van that I actually really loved, because when we came to say goodbye, it was really sad, wasn't it? Say goodbye to our van.
Kind of,
We're like, oh, it's really weird now. We're like saying goodbye, like the trip's over. But the thing I really loved is we actually had our own beds, which was amazing because we had such a big van. So we were actually in a bit of space for each other. It was kind of weird at first because we slept in the same bed for 13 years, but for the first time ever, we were able to have our own space.
Spreading
that was kind of cool, wasn't it?
Taking it, it's good.
I really love that. I also really love the fact that how well the van was really set up. They thought about so many details, like having all PowerPoints, so you could plug your phone in or plug your laptops in. Even outside, they had it all set up so you could be a remote digital nomad sitting outside with your laptop. There's speakers out there as well, so you could put the radio on or whatever you wanted.
You can definitely put some tunes on outside, nice speakers outside and inside as well.
Yeah.
And you can connect via Bluetooth to the stereo, so it's super handy. There's also an aux input on the outside as well. So if you have something you want to plug in without Bluetooth, you can also do that.
Yeah.
So I think for me, one of the things I really enjoyed about the van was just the pure freedom of it all. Just being able to literally pull up anywhere you feel like and just literally just relax in not just a cramped sort of, tiny little van, but this big relax. It feels like you just got a little mansion. You're just driving around.
Yeah, it was so cool.
Loads and loads of room in one of those things. In the Polaris 6 was massive, so we had loads of room. We felt like it was very, very comfortable and spacious. Whereas we saw some of the other vans, they were pretty cramped. And
especially the guys who have to do the tents above the cars. Oh my God.
If it's raining, you definitely want to be in one of the bigger motorhomes because
Absolutely.
it's just it's no fun being in a Yeah, but I think it was just, yeah, it was super easy to drive, a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. Everything was just really quite simple. So, yeah, I think for me it was just the freedom, really.
Absolutely. Ah, so amazing. Even just having a TV as well. I mean, we didn't even really watch TV that much, did we, at all? But it was just so nice just to be able to like be like, oh, let's put some Netflix on and watch the TV show as and when we wanted. Proper luxuries we had with that van, which I will remember forever, I think.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, guys, this is our review of what it was like driving a motorhome for the very first time in Australia. And we will be back soon for more videos about what it was like driving around Australia when we bring you how much we spent on the entire trip, as well as all the things you need to know before actually starting that sort of van life. Guys, we'll be back soon for more videos from us at London and Sydney.
That's right. Take care and be good to each other. Bye.
Bye.